Hey, good evening, people, the internet, whoever you are listening to us. We're going to be bringing you something different and new for Kenter at Your Own Risk, number 26, with Kent and Chris. And we're not actually going to be discussing horror movies as a primary facet of what we're going to be talking about. Instead, we thought we would do something nice and wholesome for the season and talk about Christmas movies, because I really need it. Down here in Florida, where there is no snow, there's never any snow, and it never looks like Christmas ever.
Yeah, is that like a weird... That's weird, right?
Coming from, growing up, for the most part, in upstate New York, and even in the couple of years I spent in Texas when I was growing up, we got snow every year I lived there. Which was weird because like a quarter inch of snow would shut down like entire towns. And you growing up where you're at right now, can't that like a quarter inch is like nothing.
Right, but you get to these warm weather and
Yeah.
the cities don't budget for like all these snowplows, so it's like a disaster, right?
Yeah, and there's no salt there, or I remember when I was stationed in Kansas in the military, instead of plowing and then salting, they would just salt. So
Oh boy.
everything would melt, and then it would refreeze, and then they would salt again, and it would melt and it would refreeze, and your undercarriage would just be shot by the time spring rolled around.
Oh, my undercarriage is always shot by spring.
But anyways, yeah, it's really weird. Like we don't have anywhere near as many, like pine trees, the traditional Christmas trees that you think of down here. So seeing people decorate palm trees, string lights around them, kind of, weirded me out the first couple of years I was down here. But over time, I mean, the biggest thing I miss is just the look of snow. I don't miss the cold. I don't miss having to shovel, but I miss, the way everything looked and like the stillness you would get on like a night at like 7 o'clock in the evening when everybody's inside because nobody's out, wanting to be out there, and you got like a little bit of snow drifting down, and so you're seeing the haze in the air because of the lights being obscured by the precipitation. Yeah, I miss that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Not so much like the 30-degree weather.
I still, at least like in December and even maybe into January, like there's something, I don't know, nice about looking outside the window at night and with like just, some random outdoor lights and seeing the snowfall. I don't know. It feels right having grown up here. It's comforting.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, this isn't even like a horror adjacent podcast. I'm kind of weirded out by this whole concept, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, seeing your list, I'm imagining that at least one horror adjacent title might have made it on there.
I'll never tell until it's my turn to tell.
So, anyways, let's get into this in the whole spirit of Christmas. I stuck to a straight 10 this month. I know you probably didn't. But I think my list ended up being a little different than what I was expecting, because I was expecting some of the things on there to be higher than they were or lower than they were. But do we want to... How's your list? You got more than 10?
I just have a couple of honorable mentions. I really did try sticking to the format this time, and I'll say this. So I went into this like thinking, oh, I'm going to have like I was thinking of all these Christmas movies, and then next thing I realized, like I haven't watched hardly any of this stuff in 20 plus years, and I'm so oblivious about certain things. So I'm stretching the imagination of Christmas just a little bit. Everybody, don't hate me.
All right, well then how about we do this? We'll break it a little up from how we typically do it. Hit your honorable mentions, and then we'll do our number 10 each, and work our way up until we get to the number ones. How's that sound?
That's
right.
cool.
So, Kent, bringing in your honorable mentions. What do we got?
Okay, so the honorable mentions I kind of think is something for part B of the podcast.
Okay, well then we'll skip.
But I do have one bonus. So I'll work along with what you're going with. I'm going to throw out a really weird film that you would not expect me to throw in here. Okay. Love Actually which was a chick flick, has an amazing cast. I'm not saying that the movie's very good or anything, but for a chick flick, it's a revolving around Christmas. I don't know if have you ever seen Love Actually?
It sounds familiar.
Dude, look up the cast. It is absurd, the talent in it, including Andrew Lincoln, who is Rick Grimes on Walking Dead, who has a very small part. But dude, it is just. I mean, I know Hugh Grant's like the big name, but Liam Neeson, Laura Linney, Bill Nighy, Colin Firth, Emma Thompson, like I said, Andy Lincoln, Martin Freeman, Keira Knightley. I can never pronounce his name. Chiwetel Ejiofor. I hope I'm close on that one.
Well, I mean, since she probably's not going to listen to our podcast, you're probably safe.
Now we're just making weird assumptions here. We don't know this for fact, Mr. Chiwetel Ejiofor. Alan Rickman. He's awesome. But, like, I mean, Billy Bob Thornton
it's got a really good cast. I think I missed it, honestly.
I had it recommended to me back when I used to do the February chick flicks for, like, the first 2 weeks of February. I can't remember who actually recommended it to me. So, those 2 weeks are kind of like hell on me because I'm watching a bunch of stuff that I really am not into. But I have to say, this wasn't bad for romantic comedy. That's why it's an honorable mention. And that's it. Like, seriously, I kind of abided by the rules that, we made up. I did good, kind of.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right. I'm proud of you, Kent. I really am.
You're confused. I can hear, like, there's, like, this weird uncertainty, like, I don't know what to do next because I expected him to take 15 minutes.
Anyways, all right. To get into number 10s for Chris and Kent. My number 10, and this surprised me because I expected it initially to be higher, but then I had to really step back and think about it a little bit, is the animated version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Very good. Yes.
And as much as I love it, like, I'm not going to get into, like, the politics of it, but there are a lot of things that I'm like, it's probably not the best Christmas message. Like, Santa is definitely a dick in this
dick.
movie. Yeah. And then just being able to flip it around and be like, oh, Rudolph, I loved you all along. Here, guide my sleigh. Ha ha. Kind of. But at the same time, it's such an iconic part of my childhood. Between Yukon Cornelius, Hermie, the Island of Misfit Toys, Bumble's Bounce,
everything about it's iconic, pretty much. I think, like,
the songs. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you something. So I didn't include it on my list. It's because I kind of left it for a potential podcast next year, so I didn't really include it. But so this is like one of Raylene's favorite films, and so for like the first 5 years of being together, I would just get her Rudolph shit, and it was kind of an easy no-brainer gift until I started getting like the same thing because I'd forget what I'd bought. This happens a lot in my life, but eventually, like, we sat down and watched it one year. Usually she just kind of watched it on her own, and it was the most irritating experience of my goddamn life. She quoted it the whole damn movie. I'm like, why even? Why? I muted it at one point. I'm like, just tell the story as it goes, because no. So never watched it again with her after that, because damn it, some people are really super into it. I used to be that way with Big Lebowski. This was how it was for her with Rudolph. Still a great film, but I haven't watched it since that particular evening.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one I hope they never try to update, because I have a feeling that it would deviate too far from, like the spirit of Christmas in an effort to, like, try to appease everybody. But the one that I missed, and I'll say this right now, I missed putting on the list that I saw from the Facebook post you made, was the original How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But outside of those two, I mean, those two are, like, to me, the epitome of, like, the Christmas animated shows. I was never super into, like, Charlie Brown Christmas, Frosty, well, okay, was, never the same caliber to me. I forgot what the one where the same people who did Rudolph did the Kringle story, for whatever that one was called.
Is that like Santa Claus Coming to Town, maybe?
Yeah, that one. I don't remember if that was the title, but it wasn't as good. Yeah. So, like, this to me is, like, the epitome of, like, probably, like, the childhood Christmas animated show. The Grinch was always a little more adult just because of the humor combined in it, but there you go. That's my number 10.
Like, because I don't want to give away too much in case we do this next year, but I will say that Grinch was my jam, and as a big, fat, pasty white guy, Frosty the Snowman, A, used to make me cry, and B, the magician, I don't remember his name, may be the greatest movie villain or TV villain of all time. And he never, ever gets put up on any of the horror icons. But think about what that man did in Frosty the Snowman. Just think about it. It was pretty effed up. Like, he locked a little girl and a snowman in this room and turned up the heat to intentionally slowly kill him and make her watch it. I'm so, like, come on, that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
So
maybe his name was John Kramer.
That won't be the last time that name comes up tonight. But
I know where you're going.
Yeah. Right. So my number 10 is one of the movies on my list I actually saw in the theater. The Santa Claus with Tim Allen. I don't remember much of it. I've watched it twice. I thought Tim Allen actually... It was one of the few times... Like, I don't know. Sometimes you see Tim Allen and, I don't know, the role doesn't... I don't know. Something about it just doesn't sit right with me. This was one of the few times where I really, like, aside from Home Improvement, that I was like, I really like this with Tim Allen. He did I don't know, I thought he did a bang-up job. It was entertaining, and, like, by the time it came out, like, I was older, so, like, I guess that was the true test. Like, came out at a time where I was kind of jaded against, like, family-friendly movies, and it still worked for me. So, props.
I might have something to say about that in, like, 3 or 4 selections. So that's all. That's all I'll say.
3 or 4. Are you bad at math, Chris?
Yeah, I didn't have my list up right when I was reading.
All right, go on.
All right, my number 9 surprised me, and I forgot about it until I was looking at my DVD selection before I was making this list. But I do think it's probably one of the better, more recent Christmas movies. But I really had a blast with Office Christmas Party.
All right. I think somehow that movie may have ended up on my Vudu, and I have no idea how.
Oh. Well, have you watched it?
I haven't seen it. No. I was intending on it.
It's the kind of humor that, like, it just works for me. Like, you know who T.J. Miller is, right?
No. Should I?
Maybe. I don't know. He's a comedian. Like, he might have done some questionable stuff, so I don't know how much more he'll be doing going forward. But like, he's one of those people who've been, like, over the top in some of their shit, and in here he's just dialed down enough to be funny. You know, like that was what I was getting at. Jason Bateman's great in it. Jennifer Aniston's great in it. You know, a lot of the side characters are great in it. It's like Kate McKinnon's in it. And it's another one where, like, she's not over the top like she was in Ghostbusters. She's dialed down closer to, like, a lot of her Saturday Night Live sketches that I appreciate. It's just a really funny movie and like fucked up too in a lot of ways. So I enjoy that combination, and then throwing in like the Christmas aspect was a really interesting twist into it.
Yeah. I know T.J. Miller because of Deadpool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where I know him from. Yeah, he's a funny guy as far as I know, but I don't know what else he did, so I'm just gonna let that hang out. Oh, Courtney Vance is in it though. I like Courtney Vance a lot. I just watched him again in the American Crime Story with the O.J. Simpson season that they did. He's a hell of an actor. I really enjoy him.
He's got a huge, pardon my language, fucking range. So it's nice to see, like I've seen him do comedy before, but it's been a while. He's done a lot of like drama lately. So he's a pretty friggin' funny part in this one.
You know what? I lied. I don't have this on Vudu. I have The Night Before with like Seth Rogen and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It actually that makes even less sense based on how much I don't really like Seth Rogen. So
I might actually have this on my Vudu, so I'll be able to return the favor for you.
Much obliged.
All right. So Kent, you're number 9. Hit me.
All right. This is something I hate doing. This is something I usually avoid in any of our lists. I don't like doing more than one film in a franchise, and with horror especially, we try to avoid it. In this case, I'm sorry, but Home Alone 2 is one of the best sequels, in my opinion, ever made, and Tim Curry was a fantastic addition. There's just a lot of cool things going on that, honestly, I kind of went into the movie, even as a kid, like, not expecting it to be nearly as good as Home Alone, and while it wasn't as great as Home Alone to me, it was still really stellar film for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Preposterous, obviously. Far more preposterous than the original. And, how the storyline and all this stuff, like, really, you're going to leave your kid? Whatever. It still worked for me. And obviously, like, none of the other ones ever lived up to anything close, right?
Well, as far as I know, there's only been 2 more. Like Home Alone 3, and then the brand new one they made that is, from what I understand,
Sweet Home Alone.
Yeah, is not very good. But yeah, I love Home Alone 2. If I had put more than one of his franchise on my list, that might have made it.
I feel dirty about it.
What was the Angels title for this one?
Oh, for the movie, right?
Yeah,
you're talking about?
Yeah, it wasn't Angels with Dirty Souls. That was the first one. It was.
I'm looking connections, soundtracks. Gosh, I don't even know where the hell to even look on this.
Yeah, I love that they were able to get another version of that for a different, audio clips for the.
Right. Yeah. It was. God damn, dude, I'm looking at just references, and there's so many references made in the film in and of itself that I'm not finding the name at the moment. But yeah, it was cool that they brought, because that's such a beloved scene in the original that it made a lot of sense to bring it back. And I don't know, that cast is so good. I don't know. I can't say it's as good, but I can say that I thoroughly enjoyed it. And, Catherine O'Hara, I have grown to really appreciate her as an actress.
She, like, when we were that age growing up, a lot of the stuff we saw her in was, stuff like this. Beetlejuice, not comedies, but definitely, family friendly for the most part. Seeing her do how much of the like improv stuff she's done with the guys from like Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, like she's really talented. Schitt's Creek, that whole
Schitt's
crew.
Creek
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
that whole crew, like almost everything that they've done has been hysterical. I don't know. Did you ever see the one they did about the mascots?
No.
What the hell was that called? But
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know either. I'm looking it up, but it
But
was
yeah.
yeah.
God, Schitt's Creek may have actually been probably my favorite sitcom of the past decade, because a lot of the, like The Office and Parks and Rec were kind of like right, kind of divided in half between the 2 decades, whereas Schitt's Creek was all this decade, and I gotta say, I can't think of a sitcom that I enjoyed more than that. And the first episode I really didn't like, but I watched it and then I rewatched it, I was like, holy shit, it's actually almost funnier on the second rewatch. In weird ways. Eric, I just played video games with Eric before we did this, and he asked me a question, and you just brought up Beetlejuice, and I wanted your thoughts on this. Can they or should they ever make a sequel to Beetlejuice?
I think they are.
God damn it. Okay.
But from what I heard, they were doing it with the original cast, so that gives me hope. I mean, everybody for the most part is still alive, I think. Michael Keaton, Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Winona.
They cannot bring back Jeffrey Jones.
Well, yeah, I don't know how that would work. Yeah, so I don't know if it's actively in development, but it's definitely something that I've seen them talking about, especially with Michael Keaton going through like the kind of resurgence that he's been the last couple of years.
Which is fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, I love Michael Keaton as an actor. I've been a fan of his since like Mr. Mom, Night Shift, 1982, 1983. So yeah.
Yeah.
Most of my life.
It was weird. He had one film, he kind of, I don't want to say he disappeared, but I mean, he had that lull, as we know. And in the midst of that lull, he did Jackie Brown, and I was like, bring Michael Keaton back. And, it took, obviously, a few more years before he kind of started getting back into it, but I always thought he was amazing in Jackie Brown. Wasn't like a huge role, but it was a good role.
Yeah, he was a relatively small part. And I think I'm looking at his list. Desperate Measures came out right around that, and he got jacked for that. I don't know if you remember that one.
I do not.
He was like, this is going really, really great for a Christmas one, but he was a death row criminal, and Andy Garcia was like an FBI agent who, his son had like some kind of degenerative bone disease or something, and like Michael Keaton's character was like the only like perfect donor match, so they got him to agree it for like a leniency in a sentence, and then like he escapes in the hospital while all this shit's going on, so it was an interesting one. But yeah, like he got jacked for that role.
Fair enough. I've heard of it. Now that you've mentioned, I've had it. Gosh, I feel like maybe I've had this conversation with you about this film at some point.
We might have brought it. I'm looking at the list. I'm like, wow, I didn't remember like Dokes from Dexter being in it, but
well, there you go.
So yeah, I am unsure if it's Beetlejuice 2 is in development or just being kicked around, but I know that they've at least talked about it.
If they keep talking about it, we've seen that usually can get willed into place, and it might be good for Alec Baldwin to kind of get something
it
positive.
It is being listed in Tim Burton's IMDb, so
I'm all for if they're going to keep the original. I just don't want, whatever they did with the Ghostbusters type thing. Like, I just want, if you're going to give me the original people, I can at least get behind that. If you're going to go like all new cast, then I'm not down with it. I guess that's the easiest way to go.
Gotcha. All right. Moving on to number 8. This one, I don't know. This one might seem criminal to a bunch of people because I know a lot of people list this as their favorite. But for me, my number 8 is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh.
I mean, let let me put it like this: I'm just not a Chevy Chase fan. For whatever reason, he was in a bunch of movies that I liked, but I never liked them because of him. And it's the same thing about this movie. Like, I like Clark Griswold. I appreciate all of the Vacation movies. Well, all of the original Vacation movies, I should say. I think this is probably the best one out of all of them. I don't know if it's necessary. Like, I think probably my favorite Chevy Chase movie is Funny Farm, overall. But it just, I don't know. It never really struck me as much as like a lot of other Christmas movies did.
Yeah, I think this is... It's one of those films that is required viewing in some households and not so much. And the weird thing is, you're right about Chevy, because I know I'm in such a vast minority here, but I didn't care that much for Caddyshack aside from, like, Dangerfield and Bill Murray. Like, it wasn't as funny as everybody told me it was going to be.
I'm not certain what it was. Like, I know there are people who are like, I was just watching something the other day where they were talking, it was a podcast. I don't know if you ever watched the one with Michael Rosenbaum, Inside of You, or listened to it. He was talking with some of the like people from the 80s, and they were talking about like how Chevy Chase was like the highest paid comedian at the time. I was like, really? Wow. That's surprising to me. Really surprising.
Yeah, because that is honestly really surprising. I'm really surprised by what you just said.
But then I start thinking about it, and he was, he had the National Lampoon's Vacation stuff. He had the Caddyshack movies. He had the Fletch movies. He was in Three Amigos, Spies Like Us. Yeah, so he was in a ton of stuff. I guess it was all
the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess, like, just looking back in hindsight, though, you and I both know that there were so many more funny people, especially that time frame.
Yeah.
It's just, maybe because he kind of gave off like an everyman type. And sometimes that works.
And I'll be honest too, like, I was young enough at the time that I wasn't watching Saturday Night Live when he was on it. So I don't know how much him being on that contributed to his reputation.
Yeah.
Because I know like a lot of like John Belushi's reputation as being like one of the funniest people in comedy was because of a lot of his Saturday Night Live stuff. I mean, he had the parts in like Animal House and whatnot, but he wasn't like a super prolific movie actor.
Agreed. Being on SNL used to mean more than it does today, in my opinion. Like, I think people still like latch on and remember the glory days, but I mean, in the 80s and 90s, like, if you were in SNL, you were guaranteed to have 3 or 4 feature films with your characters for whatever reason. Like, that was just a thing that we all accepted and we trusted in the process, no matter how many times it failed, because sometimes it did succeed.
Well, and we also had smaller casts back then. So, I mean, when you're looking at like 8 people, maybe 10 at the most, versus like what they have probably close to 20 now.
Yeah, that introductory thing is like super long nowadays.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a different time, man. Really
so I mean, Christmas Vacation has a ton of like really memorable scenes, but for me, it's like one of the ones where like I only like it because of the sum of the parts. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I completely agree with you.
Alrighty, thank you. Thank you. All right. Kent.
All right.
What is your number 8? Dun, dun, dun.
Well, it's a movie I watched last year for the first time in a very long time. Since the old, like, VHS days. I definitely saw this in the theater. I'm going to harken back to a time when Jim Varney was alive and amazing, and I'm going to go with Ernest Saves Christmas. Dude, all right, so like when I watched it, like last year, I watched it with very scared eyes. I'm sitting there like, I don't want to shatter my childhood. Like, like you ever go back and rewatch something that you really loved and you haven't watched it in 20 some years and you're like kind of skeptical? I was, and like, yeah, there are times where you're like, all right, this is cheesy as shit, but as a kid, you laughed it up, and there's still enough stuff that made me laugh and made me giggle, and probably there's some stuff I get now that I probably didn't get as a kid. And overall, I just appreciate Jim Varney for, I don't know, being like willingly doing some of the shit that he did.
I have a story to go into when you finish, but yes, I got you.
Yeah, well, tell your story, man.
When maybe like the first year or two when we had Netflix, back when, it was the discs rather than the streaming.
Right, yeah.
We had the 3 discs at a time, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to use my disc of the 3 to go back and revisit like a whole bunch of stuff from the 80s that I remember being amazing as I was growing up, and see how much of it is aged well. So I forced my wife to sit through things like The Beastmaster, The Last Starfighter, a bunch of animated shows like the original Transformers Generation 1, Galaxy Rangers, stuff like that.
Was Highlander on this list?
I actually own Highlander Blu-ray Special Edition DVD.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So no, Highlander was not. But almost overwhelmingly, everything that I just said was so disappointing watching as an adult. That yes, I completely understand what you're saying about like going in hoping that stuff lives up to your childhood expectations. At least in this case, you had the joy of it living up to and not being crushed.
Yeah, the casting was pretty good in it. And, like, one thing I could say for Ernest movies, although it's always about Ernest, like, his best movies are when there's really decent side characters, and his worst are when they overly rely on just him to carry every last scene.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I don't remember some of them, but I do remember, like, I really enjoyed Ernest Goes to Camp.
Ernest, yeah. And I remember Ernest Goes to Jail. Like, there were so many, but, this one was definitely just a fond memory. So, and I'm happy that I still enjoyed it. So
good.
Yeah.
All right.
Your number 7.
To my number 7 goes into your number. I don't remember what number it was, but I have a much more intimate experience with the Santa Claus than you do. My son, in his autistic glory, watches this movie probably at least once, if not twice a day, every day, for like the last 7 years of my life.
Oh dear Lord!
I know probably almost every line in this movie, and I agree with just about everything you said in it. Like, separate Tim Allen's like politics from his acting, and I usually enjoy most of the stuff I see him in, but there's very few things where I'm like, gee, the best cast for that would be Tim Allen. I will say this, that Galaxy Quest is one of my favorite comedy spoofs. Especially along the lines of like a more intelligent one versus, like, not to knock him because Mel Brooks is one of my favorite directors of all time, but like Mel Brooks kind of more lowbrow spoof humor. But yeah, the first Santa Claus was really good. again, we're the same age, so I was older when it came out, and like you said, it managed to not make like teenage me, turn my nose up at it. And I think it's relatively held true, the message, and it doesn't take away too much from the actual, excuse me, Christmas theme, to go into like selling toys. Like I notice a lot of like Santa Claus themed things do. So yeah, I mean that's all I got to add on to it. I mean, you already said it.
It was actually just a cool idea too. I don't know if I don't know. Was there anything before that kind of delved into that particular storyline? Because at the time, I'd never seen anything.
No, I mean, like I remember when we were about 5 or 6, there was a big one called like Santa Claus the Motion Picture, which was more about like this guy's already Santa Claus, and one of his elves wanted to like go into more like industrial manufacturing of the toys instead of handcrafting stuff. So that was kind of like the argument there. But yeah, no, nothing about like somebody modern becoming Santa Claus. This was unfortunately, like the sequels went downhill pretty quickly.
Sure, as would be expected. This was a story that only need one movie to tell it, but I'm sure they made bank. So,
Yeah.
it's weird because like we were talking about Tim Allen. It's like I never would have thought like Tim Allen in Toy Story. Like that would not have been the guy I would have gotten for Toy Story, and yet that worked well too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I mean, like you think of Tom Hanks now as being like one of the greatest actors of this generation. But yeah, again, I never would have, before he did Toy Story, I never would have been like, oh, Tom Hanks would be perfect to play a animatronic cowboy in a kids movie.
Right. It just the casting was so well done, but yet at first you just don't consider those options. I agree.
Yeah. All right, man. What's your number 7?
Oh, I did National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and I have absolutely nothing. You know what? Here's what I'll add. My mind was blown. Think like late '90s, watching American History X, and Beverly D'Angelo's in it, and I'm by then I had internet, so I was kind of like looking things up. I'm like, holy shit! I never put together until like I saw it on the screen, like. She was the mom from National Lampoon's. Dude, my mind was so blown that day. It was just one of those really cool moments in my life. I don't know why that's a cool moment in life, but it really was for me.
I will say this too: the scene where Clark's looking out and fantasizing about having the pool in his backyard, and then he sees the sales clerk from the perfume counter starting to undress in his dream. Was like a really cool scene for like young teenage Chris.
Absolutely. I think a whole generation of young males probably mostly agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit nipply outside.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so my number 6, and I think this might be my mom's number 1, but is, again, I seem to notice that I have a lot of comedies hitting my list. But have you ever seen The Ref with Dennis Leary?
No, it was brought up on the list, and I haven't seen it, and now I'm curious about it because I love Dennis Leary. So tell me more.
So it might have been the first or second. I'm trying to get a timeline here. Okay, I think it was the second thing I ever saw Kevin Spacey in, or remember seeing Kevin Spacey in. So, if you can watch movies that he's in without having to cancel them because, one person's a fucking sadistic rapist, good, because this movie is fucking hysterical. So it's Christmas Eve, and Dennis Leary is a cat burglar. And he's breaking into an abandoned home to steal some diamonds from this rich person's house, and somewhere in the northeast. It's snowing. It's cold. I want to say on a river or the ocean, so it's probably somewhere in the Northeast. And they successfully steals the jewels, but the guy set it up so if you opened up the safe without doing blah blah blah, you got sprayed with cat urine. So like the entire movie, he smells like cat piss, and an alarm goes off. So like the cops respond and they don't see him, but now he's having to hide out, and so he breaks into another house where people are home, and they're getting ready to have their family Christmas party, and he kidnaps them, and ends up having to pretend to be their marriage counselor to get through this Christmas party while his buddy's trying to, set up transportation to get out. And like this family is the most dysfunctional family ever, to the point where like this cat burglar who's, straight up criminal is like, you people are way more fucked up than like any criminal I've ever met in my entire life. Not in like, like an evil, deranged way, but just in like such a mean-spirited, like the family that hates each other kind of way.
All right. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Why? So the name of the movie is The Ref. How does that correlate to?
As he has to end up refereeing between like the entire family.
See now, all right. So the name, like, I feel the name is, I don't want to say misleading. It's not misleading, but to me, I hear the name The Ref, and I have a whole different thought process about what that film's going to potentially be about.
Yeah,
I think maybe that's why I've never seen it. I love Kevin Spacey, and fuck cancel culture. I'll watch whatever the hell I want. So, I usually watch it Usual Suspects every 2 years, so whatever.
Yeah, this would have been the second thing I saw him in after Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just really funny, like, and I'm seeing like a bunch of people that, I ended up seeing more of, like, down the road. Like, shit, what the hell? I'm losing my train of thought.
I'm seeing Christine Baranski.
Yeah, Christine Baranski.
How do I know her?
She's been in a bunch of stuff. Like the big things I've seen her in recently were like the Good Life and the Good Wife and the Good Fight. She was in Bad Moms. The Big Bang Theory. I don't know if you watched that.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, she was in Cruel Intentions. And
Okay.
Bulworth.
Yes.
I love Bulworth.
As you pull out like two of the... Anyways. Yeah, so her, Raymond J. Barry, who was... I'm pretty sure he was the dad in... what the hell was the one with Justified?
Oh, okay. I mean, dude, he was in Falling Down and Training Day, two of my favorite freaking movies.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a bunch of people that like I would have seen here for like close to the first time, and it's just it's there's some like freaking classic lines in it. It's funny and it's dark without being like like overly dark. It never hit like that very bad things line.
Would you say it's in the same vein or lighter than something like Serial Mom?
Way lighter.
Okay. Because that's a quirky as hell movie that's tough to...
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time, didn't we? Or two times ago.
Yeah, it's just a quirky movie that's tough to describe, I guess. So, okay. I guess I could add this to my never-ending list that I'll never, ever get through. I could live 15 more lifetimes and still never get through the damn list.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, what's your number 6, bud?
Number 6. Once again, now we're getting into a territory of questionable selections. I'm going with Die Hard because it's a good movie. I know a lot of people hate that people are classifying it as a Christmas movie. I didn't put it up higher because I didn't want to hear it. I know I know it's just like a weirdly debated thing. I'm okay if you don't think it's a Christmas movie. I really am. I'm on your side. I just don't agree with you.
Yeah, I'm not on your side. It's a fucking Christmas movie.
Like, I enjoy it. It's something. If I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna watch it around Christmas time. So to me, that does correlate for me personally as a Christmas movie. What else is there to freaking say about Die Hard? I mean, I know we don't discuss it here on the podcast, but is there anything I can really offer that hasn't been talked about ad nauseum at this point in life?
Probably not. It's just such a fucking well-crafted movie, just all around. You know, the protagonists are good, the antagonists are good, the plot is good. It's realistic, relatively realistic action. You know, the attention to detail was there. You know, like the side characters were interesting.
Reginald Vell Johnson, man. How we just discussed Bonnie Bedelia in the Stephen King podcast.
Even like Hart Bachner. I mean, everybody. Hey, Hans, Bubby.
Like, I don't know. Have you ever seen? I don't know if you even watched Bob's Burgers, the Die Hard episode that they did.
I have not. Yeah, I've watched Bob's Burgers a little bit because, like, I'm a huge Archer fan, but it's just not quite the same thing.
I would highly recommend. I don't know. I think it's season 4 or 5. Watching. I think the episode's called Die Hard or something. Mm-hmm. It's a musical. They do musical on that and Working Girl, and then they end up having to combine it at the end, and it somehow works magnificently. It's just amazing. I think it's Work Hard or Die Trying Girl. I think that's the name of it. So I highly recommend it. Like, dude, I in my bedroom I have like a Christmas Die Hard. I don't even know what the hell it is, but I bought it for my buddy Ron for this year. So, like, I don't know. I personally like it. And when I posted on Facebook, I think it was listed 2 or 3 times. I don't know. Do you think it... All right, with the debate over Die Hard, do you think it's almost like more... Like, men will say it's a Christmas movie. Do you think it's almost a battle of the sexes?
I don't know, because my wife says it's a Christmas movie.
Okay.
So, I mean, I married awesome.
Yeah, I mean, way to fuck over my theory, Chris. Thanks. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you, too, man.
My bad.
That's okay. Carl Winslow makes me happy. Always. Always Carl Winslow.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
I don't know. That's a good question.
He is still alive. Uncle Phil's the one that's dead. God, 2 of my childhood heroes.
Sorry. I'm sorry, buddy.
These things happen. But anyways, on a brighter, happier note, number 5.
Guess what?
Is it With a Vengeance?
No, it's just Die Hard.
All right, Chris, elaborate, please.
Yeah, like, if this was, like, best action movies that take place at Christmas, it would be my number 1. Again, like you said, it didn't place higher because a lot of people would whine. And, it's more... Okay. I would accept the people who would say that this isn't a Christmas movie if they would admit that it's Christmas adjacent.
There's the word. I need to have a bottle of liquor, and every time a Jason comes up, I need to take a shot. That's a new rule for 2022.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we can get really drunk and do our podcasts.
Go on.
But yeah, like, again, like we just said, it's I guess the only other one that I would have forgotten, besides The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, would have been Lethal Weapon, and that would probably be my number 2 Christmas action movie. I love them both. They're very 80s. Die Hard is less dated for me than Lethal Weapon was. There you go.
Oh, I mean, God, yes.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I can say. We haven't already said.
I forgot about Lethal Weapon until that was brought up, but that was not the movie that I had to insert in my list. I like Lethal Weapon, it just wasn't a top 10 for me because it really has dated not so well.
Although, to piggyback on that, did you see that they just announced that they are doing Lethal Weapon 5 with all of the original cast, except for possibly Joe Pesci. I don't know if he's coming back. But, and Mel Gibson will be directing.
I'm cool with that. Gibson's a hell of a director.
Yeah, I mean...
Once again, he's like...
Again, yeah.
Controversial figure, but the dude knows how to direct.
He's had, what, 2 Best Pictures, at least?
Gosh. Well, I don't know how...
At least one, if not multiple, up for Best Picture.
I mean, he had Braveheart, he had Patriot, he had Passion of the Christ, and... God, I know I'm missing a couple that were also well regarded.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah. So, okay, wait. I have to mention a funny picture that I'd taken. So when I turn my TV on, it has like a little screen on the bottom with like all the smart app stuff, and it also shows me like free movies. So I turn it on and I giggled, and I was like, I have to take a picture of this. So the 3 pictures that are right next to each other are, and I don't know if we'll be talking about one of these soon, but It's a Wonderful Life, Hellboy 2, The Passion of the Christ.
Wait, what?
These were right next to each other. I'm like, how do you go from, how? Like, why? Who okayed this? Like, it's so ridiculous. So, yeah, I wanted to share that. I'm glad you brought it up in some way, so I'm happy. Yeah. Good stuff. Samsung.
Yeah, okay. Jesus.
You said it, man.
Yeah. All right. What's your number 5?
I initially forgot about this, and then I was happy to be reminded on it while researching for this. Once again, people don't hate me, but whatever. Batman Returns.
Okay. That's a good call. Good call.
Dude, it's...
Good call, cheater.
No, that wasn't the one I cheated on.
Oh, it wasn't?
My number 2 is what I cheated on.
Oh. Jesus, dude. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. I really messed up, okay? So, Batman Returns, like, as a kid, I didn't like Batman Returns nearly as much as I liked the first Keaton Batman, and I honestly liked Batman Forever better than I liked Batman Returns, but at the time, I don't think I was looking for a dark Batman. I loved horror movies, but I wasn't, for Batman, I wasn't looking for super dark, and now as an adult, my God, I didn't know who Christopher Walken was as a freaking kid, for example. I knew Danny DeVito from a couple of things.
Taxi and Twins and stuff. Yeah,
right. So even Michelle Pfeiffer, I didn't know her. So, but now as an adult to see all this, it was so good. I don't know. It's a really good movie. Is this the one that also has Bane in it?
No, that was the 4th one, Batman and Robin.
Oh, okay, my bad. But anyway, even the Super Nintendo game that came out was actually quite good. Once again, as a kid, I just didn't appreciate it nearly as much as I do as an adult. I don't know if it's my favorite Batman movie, but it's high up at the very least. And Vincent
Schiavelli. Yeah.
Thank you. I can
as the organ grinder with the monkey.
Yeah, he's a delight. I don't know. There's just a lot of positive things going for it.
Loved that movie. I love that movie. Michelle Pfeiffer is still the hottest Catwoman. Okay, Eartha Kitt was really hot too, but
yeah.
But yeah, and yeah, again, I forget about it. I loved it more than the first Burton Batman. I've never been I don't know what it is with the Joker where people get into a fetish about him, where they're like, oh my God, it's the Joker. But
it's more absurd than people's obsession over Lex Luthor needing to be in a Superman movie. Everybody just insists Joker has to be part, and my God, Batman has such a, I hate saying rogue gallery, but he has the best.
And I mean, as good a job as Jack did, his Joker was definitely based off of like the 1950s campy Joker that I don't like.
Correct.
You know, like if we're going to talk about a Joker that I think was relevant and I actually enjoyed, Heath Ledger, hands down, takes the cake for that for me. But
And Mark Hamill, honorable mention.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, but even then, for the most part, he's still riffing his Joker off of the earlier,
Cesar Romero, right?
Cesar Romero version compared to, much more modern stylings. Whereas Danny DeVito's Penguin is like completely and totally fucking unique. Like I've never seen people do another version of the Penguin where he was like, like a mutated fish man kind of thing. Again, Michelle Pfeiffer was an awesome Catwoman. And like you said, we were too young at the time to really appreciate Christopher Walken, but going back and looking at, Maximilian Schreck, there's a great story about him talking about working with Tim Burton, and he was like, I was reading The Great Gatsby, and this character in it wore cufflinks that were made out of molars, and then he came in, talking with Tim Burton about that, and he came in, and the next day there were cufflinks made out of molars in his dressing room for him for that character. I mean, and you don't ever really see that, but that's something that informed how he ended up playing the guy.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I'm a huge Burgess Meredith fan, and he played...
He played back in now, the Adam West, yeah.
Yeah, now the new one, we're getting Colin Farrell, and I don't want to prejudge it. I've seen Colin do some good stuff. I'm not usually a fan, but I'm curious to see how they present him, plus his acting.
Yeah, he definitely does not look like Colin Farrell. Like, I'll give him that. If nothing else, the performance could suck, but the makeup they did on him is amazing.
I'm also curious. I really am looking forward to John Turturro. I always am. I don't know about Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Now, I'm reserving judgment. I'm reserving judgment on almost the whole cast, aside from I'm already sold on Turturro.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. Like, I hope it turns out really good, because, I've been replaying the Batman Arkham games. I know, let's really talk about Christmas movies right now.
Yeah,
but
don't work.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about them was like they got that, Batman's rogues gallery is a bunch of serial killers. Like all of them. Part of the best thing about playing through those games is when you sit there and you just listen to the audio tapes of like the psychological interviews that they're doing with those guys while they're in the asylum. And
Dude, there's so much good stuff in there. Like I played through it last year, Arkham Asylum, for the third time. I really love it. I didn't finish Arkham City. Like I started it after playing it. I've already beaten it once. I think I 100%ed it, which that's a task right there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never fully got into Arkham Knight quite yet, but I did buy it just so I could eventually do it.
Yeah, I just replayed Asylum and City and started Origin for a replay yesterday. But yeah, I mean, like, listening to, like, they got the fact that, these people aren't campy. I mean, the smallest one of them are, mass murderings. So it looks like this movie will hopefully understand that and have that kind of tone.
Yeah.
I mean, the Riddler definitely, optimistic. I mean, like, the Riddler's almost always been campy. You end up seeing way more versions of, like, Jim Carrey playing him than you do, like, what we get. But when you think about it, he's basically, like, what Jigsaw would be if Jigsaw had, like, a superhero archenemy.
Now that would be interesting.
So, anyways, where the hell were we?
We finished up my number 5, and we all decided that Batman Returns was good, and now we're moving on to number 4 and trying to recapture our fan base before they turn us off.
Speaking of Jigsaw, we come into Home Alone.
All right.
Or John Kramer's origin story.
The greatest origin story never told.
But yeah, I love this movie. I love the second one too. But I remember, God, when did Home Alone come out? 88? 89?
88, 89, someplace in there, yeah.
And so we would have been like 8 or 9. And that was, right about the time that you're starting to feel like you're growing up. You're not necessarily there yet, but you're like, oh, I'm too old for these animated things. And then, something, you see the trailers and the advertisements for this, and it was definitely one of the first movies that I remember being like super marketed. Like,
yeah,
ads were everywhere. And you're like, oh, that looks like a kid's movie. And then you watch it and you're like, that was funny as hell. It was touching. The cast was great. It made Macaulay Culkin a star way too early, and he fizzled out for the most part. Like, I don't think, he'll ever bounce back. But, I don't know. It's just a great movie. And then when you watch, like, the YouTube videos about how deadly, like, all of the traps and stuff were. Like, I watched, my buddy showed me a special effects movie or video on YouTube where they went through, like, what would actually have happened to people for each one of the traps. Yeah, Harry and Marv wouldn't have made it. But
oh God, no.
and then going into like the whole Kevin McAllister's actually John Kramer's real name, and this is where he learned how to. Just a really funny, adjacent stuff.
Yeah, I think this was honestly probably my first. I don't know if I'd seen Joe Pesci in much of anything. If I had, I didn't pay attention to him at the time. Daniel Stern. I knew Roberts Blossom, but not. I knew him from Christine, and I never even correlated that those were the same two men because they were such different characters. For example,
yeah, I got you.
And like even Angela, I don't know, Goethals. I mean, she's in Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Like,
she was the little girl, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm. And then you got John Candy. My God, as a kid, I used to watch Camp Candy, the cartoon, which was great. There's just so many cool things about this movie. It hits every note. And did you watch it in the theater, or did you only watch it at home?
I watched it at home, but I want to say that, like, I remember my mom bringing home the VHS when she picked us up from work. And that day, if I remember correctly, my brother and I had gotten in trouble because, like, our boots had gotten soaked. But I think it was a Friday. So, I mean, I remember we were in trouble. We weren't going to be allowed. And then we watched it. And we all enjoyed it so much that we turned around and we watched it again back to back. Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I wasn't able to get many store-bought movies, so I probably only had maybe like 20 until like my teenage years, and this was definitely one of them. Like, I don't know, it had to be one of them. This and Part 2 were both in my very, very small collection of actually things I owned rather than something I recorded off Fox in the afternoon or HBO during the free weekend preview. Like,
yeah,
I actually
owned it. I mean, back when like that was a thing, like kids have no idea about like recording, stuff off TV, trying to avoid the commercials, stretching out. Like, if I recorded at this speed, I can get 8 hours worth of video versus. Yeah.
SLP, 8 hours. Like, oh, I can get 4 movies on this. All right. I don't care about quality as long as I have the content. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. So, yeah. great.
Tracking. You remember having to deal with tracking?
Oh, auto tracking was a godsend.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Us old people. What's your number 4?
Okay, I'm questionable about this. I still say it counts. Edward Scissorhands.
Okay. Yeah. I'll give it to you.
Because isn't there like the whole thing about like
The snow?
why the snow? Yeah. So I mean, I've always been a fan of it. I rewatched it a few years ago because I hadn't seen it in forever. It felt like, and it's still excellent. It's still an excellent film. It's older at this point, 1990, same year as Home Alone. Come to find out,
Jesus.
so
Now you make
90
me.
was a good year.
Now you're making me feel. It's older. 1990. You know,
Yeah,
what was that? 31 years ago.
yeah, man. Winona Ryder.
I saw this one in the
Young.
theater. I did.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, once again, another one of those movies that has a cast like, even somebody like, I don't know how to pronounce it, Conchata Ferro from Two and a Half Men is in it. Diane Wiest from Lost Boys. Vincent Price as the inventor.
Yeah, I mean,
Alan Arkin.
I was just watching an interview with Anthony Michael Hall the other day where he was talking about it. Yeah, I love Alan Arkin in this movie, man. He's just, yeah. I love Alan Arkin, period, but like his dryness just makes it for me.
Yeah, I don't really have much to... Once again, it's not a movie that I initially thought of as a Christmas movie, but as I was going... Well, I don't know. I think people assume. I go through lists in preparation for these podcasts because I'm always inevitable to forget at least one or two movies. So I pour through these lists and usually I dismiss most everything. But this came up. I was like, oh, yeah. Like, oh, it's just... It's probably more Christmas adjacent, but whatever. It's my list.
You know what my favorite commercial from the Super Bowl was this year?
No.
The Timothy Chalamet one where he was Edward Scissorhands' kid.
All right. Yep. That's fantastic. All right.
Anything else to add?
No, I'm happy with that. Tim Burton back to back for me.
Yeah, good job.
Wow, good on me.
Good job, Timmy B. All right. Unfortunately, my number 3 is not Timmy B, but it's probably more of considered a New Year's movie, but Christmas takes place in there too. But my number 3 is one of my favorite comedies of all time, and that's Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy.
Don't hate me. Never seen it.
Oh my God, Kent. If I know there are a lot of lists that we make where there's stuff that we haven't seen, dude, you got to watch this movie. Seriously, like this is like one of those ones where like you got to watch it as soon as we stop the podcast. It's that good. And now that I built it up for you, you're probably gonna hate it.
Wait, is it Trading Places or Spaces?
Should be Trading Places.
Trading Places. Okay. Making it's the first thing I'm making for a note, so feel honored.
Yeah. It's hysterical, man. And like one of my favorite things is like the two old guys, Ralph Bellamy and Don Amici. Their characters in this are the same characters who are homeless begging outside of the shit. What the hell was it? The whatever the McDougal's in Coming to America.
Okay.
That he gives the money to. Yeah. So it was just like a nice little nod from him to like two people who like got him on his way. But yeah, like after like seeing something like this, and like how funny the two of these guys are, it floored me that like Chevy was more successful than considered more successful than them in the 80s.
Yeah, because Eddie Murphy was freaking.
Eddie Murphy was on fire. Dan Aykroyd was in almost almost Spies Like Us with Chevy. I mean, so it was weird for me to hear that like he made so much more money than these guys.
That is weird. That is really weird. Yeah, it just puts things in weird perspective, I guess.
I mean, and like for me, I know a lot of times we talk about like Jamie Lee Curtis because she's done a lot of horror, but this is like the first thing that I saw her in. So rather than Halloween, this is what I remember her from, and like her comedic timing was like killer in it. So,
and John Landis directed it.
Yeah, it is probably hands down one of the top 5 funniest movies I've ever seen. I mean, it is dated because we're talking about something made in the early 80s, but it's great.
I'm looking through. I'm seeing like Frank Oz. I'm seeing Giancarlo Esposito. I'm also seeing, and I have to really ask, Robert Earl Jones. I mean, he's got to be related, right?
Maybe, probably.
I mean, the Earl Jones just kind of makes.
Yeah, I mean yeah.
So, yeah, okay. Oh wow, Robert Earl Jones was in Sleepaway Camp. Huh. All right. Well, good to know.
Yeah. Okay. So, I hope you floor me with your number 3.
It's a movie we've talked about before that I know you like.
Okay, good.
It's the closest thing to horror that I'm going to come to on this list, aside from my number 1. Gremlins.
You know what? Yeah. I wish I had no, actually I don't. Like this was one that I like, but it did not live up to my memories of it when I rewatched it. Probably within the last year. I don't remember which one we were talking. Was it our Christmas specific?
Was this movie Christmas specific?
Yeah, didn't we do one where it was Christmas horror movies?
I don't know, but I know we did way back in the day. We did the actual blogs about Gremlins, and then we did.
Oh yeah, okay. Maybe it's for the blog too, instead of the podcast. Yeah. But yeah. So I enjoy Gremlins, but I think it definitely was better back in the day. I don't want to knock your list because it's yours, but yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have made mine.
It's a product of its time, but I still, once again, it's one of those things that I can look back fondly upon and still actually enjoy it nowadays. Did I like it better as a kid? Of course I did, but
I really think that Gremlins is a property that could be remade without having to be rebooted, because like when I rewatched it, a lot of the weakest part of it was just Zach Galligan, as Billy.
Oh yeah. No doubt.
And like the Mogwai could just be thrown in almost any situation. Get some decent actors and a decent script, and you can, if you want to give the nod, have Billy in there. Like, oh, somebody stole Gizmo. Oh, I'll come in for like the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes, kind of shit.
Yeah, he can be a father or an uncle, something. You could do any number of things and to include him, which I think fans would like. But yeah, bring it to a new generation. The marketing is super easy. Our generation's going to bring our kids to it because nostalgia, it just works on every level. It would be successful. I fully believe it would be a success. Just, cast somebody that's not horrible.
Yeah.
That's all.
There you
and Neil say Gremlins 2 is not on my list, but just because if anybody ever needs a laugh, look up the Gremlins 2 Key and Peele sketch on YouTube. It's fantastic. It really is.
It really is. It's true too.
It really is, yeah. So that's my number 3.
All right, and from reading a Facebook post, I think my number 2 is something that you haven't seen either, which would be Scrooged.
Yes, I'm...
After you watch Trading Places, go watch Scrooged.
Sure thing, sir.
I mean, I know you want to sleep tonight, but you got to get your Christmas fix on. Bill Murray is kind of like, when he's on, and he's usually almost funny, always funny, but like Scrooged is one of the high marks for him because like this is one of those movies where he has to carry the whole thing, and he does. And this is again why, well, I guess for the first time, this would be why I didn't put any of the Christmas carols on my list, because this is the best version of A Christmas Carol, hands down. It's,
Man, that's some high praise.
it is. I mean, it's the Scrooge story modernized and told through, a TV executive rather than, a banker or an accountant or whatever you want to say. And it's just funny. Like, he's good in it. Bobcat Goldthwait's good in it. Carol Kane's good in it. It's
Buddy Hackett and Robert Goulet, man.
Oh, dude.
Lee Majors. Michael Pollard. I like Michael Pollard a lot more for horror stuff, but it's a name that I know at least. Like, it's a really solid cast.
And, it's horror adjacent, dude, too. I mean, it's... There were definitely some things where it was like... after having seen it now, you know what's going on. But like the first time you're watching it, it's a little creepy with some of the ghosts. They did a pretty good job with the special effects, but it's just it's funny. It's over the top. It's 80s trying to sell stuff on TV, so they're filming a live studio version of A Christmas Carol on Christmas Eve, and they're like, oh, and we've got Mary Lou Retton as Tiny Tim, so when she walks, she doesn't just walk, she does triple cartwheel down the aisle and then the backflip into the putting her crutches down kind of so it's
It sounds entertaining enough to me that I truly believe I will enjoy it. I mean, will I say it's ever better than Mickey's Christmas Carol? That's a tough one, but I'm willing to give it the chance. If nothing else, hey, being number 2 behind probably my second most beloved Christmas cartoon is not a bad thing.
Yep.
I'm excited about this. Now I just gotta find it.
I had to. I don't think special order it, but I had to order it to find a copy because I don't think it was streaming anywhere when I was, and I enjoyed it enough to make my wife let me buy it.
I was in a production of A Christmas Carol, and it was a production within a production. So like the beginning and end was like the production crew and the actors kind of talking as themselves and then putting on the show of Christmas Carol. And although I wasn't Scrooge, I got to be Marley, and I also got to be a Ghost of Christmas Past, and it was cool. It was probably my favorite play that I ever did, mainly probably because I had a good role. But it was a good time. Dominic, our mutual friend Dom, was Scrooge.
I can see that.
and opening night, I don't know if it's in every telling of the story, but like Marley's face becomes the door knocker. So I'm like there just trying to keep my face still as my face on the door. And he decides that's the best opportunity. Like, he's happy, and all of a sudden he gives me this big kiss on the lips, and I have to, like, just try to stay perfectly still. I was like, he laughed at me, like, he knew, and I was just like, yep, I'm just going to be professional, because whatever. It was funny. It really was funny, and, it was probably my I don't know, I'd say my highlight for on-stage acting.
That's awesome.
Anything more?
No, I can't recommend it highly enough.
Okay. So, my number 2, and this is the one that I'm sitting there kicking myself in the ass over, because I can't believe my mom would be so ashamed of me. I feel, amongst other reasons, but Grumpy Old Men.
Yeah, yeah. I saw that on the list, and I was like, I'm not going to change my list, but I don't know where, and I don't know where to fall it in. But yeah, I love those movies too.
Dude, it's easily it's got to be in my top 10 favorite comedies of all time. I mean, the sequel's also amazing, but like everything about it was just really well done. The cast was great.
Love the outtakes at the end where they're showing Burgess Meredith just cut up that one scene over and over and over again.
Oh my God, yes.
Looks like she's taking a skin boat to tuna town.
Burgess was so filthy in that movie. He was great. Like, aside from the Walter and Jesus, I'm blanking on the other guy's name. What the hell's the other guy's name?
Jack Lemmon.
Walter. Yeah. And Ozzie Davis, who was from The Stand as well. And the main, what was it, Anne Margaret, right?
Yep.
So, and then they added Sophia Loren, I think, in the sequel.
Second one, yeah.
There was, and then you also got, oh Christ, the kid, the son
kids,
and daughter.
yeah, Daryl Hannah and Kevin Pollak.
Pollock, yes, there we go. My God, my brain is not working well. But all in all, like, I don't even know if I knew who the hell Kevin Pollak was until this film. And then when he popped up in Usual Suspects, I was like, this is so weird to me. Like, it was two very different roles.
Oh, you know what? I remember seeing Grumpy Old Men when it came out, relatively soon afterwards. And yeah, Kevin Pollak didn't even really make a blip on my radar in it. I liked him. I didn't dislike him. And then, years later after, becoming a fan from Usual Suspects and going back and seeing, I'm like, oh shit, he was in that?
Yeah.
But,
Daryl Hannah.
I think it's funny is that, like, I never, I was too young to have watched the original Odd Couple, these two dudes, portraying, those characters. And, then years later I see them reunite on screen as, grumpy old men. And I'm like, wow, these guys are really funny. Not realizing that, they've been acting together for like years and years and years playing off of each other.
Yeah. As a kid, I had no idea. And once again, this is one of those movies that I saw in the theater with my mom. So all the sexual jokes and stuff, fantastic.
I mean, at least you didn't take her to Sleepwalkers.
Best movie memory ever. So, yeah. This was another one of those films that I actually owned. I actually bought it for my mom for Christmas. It was actually a movie that she liked, unlike Shawshank Redemption when I bought it for her. So, good times.
Yeah, I love this movie. I love the sequel. Again, I didn't have it on my list. I saw it. I don't know where I would have put it, but yeah, it's a great movie.
All the jokes that they play on each other, I don't know. I don't think I go 5 minutes without laughing. Like, I still laugh, even though I know what the jokes are. I still laugh. That to me is the sign of a good comedy.
Yeah.
All right.
I
am so curious what has your number one been mentioned by me at all?
It's been mentioned by you, but not within context of a movie that we've spoken of yet.
Yeah, I have a feeling where this might be going.
I have to go with a classic.
Yep.
And it's for me it's one that I remember watching with my mom a lot when I was a kid. Like my wife has a tradition every Christmas where she watches White Christmas with her mom. They'll put the movie on, like instead of streaming it together, like her mom will put her copy in, my wife will put a copy on, and they'll watch it together while they're on the phone with each other. I don't do that with my mom, but like It's a Wonderful Life was something I remember watching with her as a kid, and then just growing up, and it's been like a basis for a lot of different stories I've seen over the years. Everything from like Mr. Destiny to I don't know, the whole idea of like what would life be like without you in it.
Yeah.
And the line, every time an angel or bell rings, an angel gets his wings, has been used, all sorts, from everything from like Spawn to what have you. But like it really rests on like Jimmy Stewart's shoulders, and I really appreciate Jimmy Stewart as an actor from that era. There's so many scenes where like when you see the pharmacist, smacking him around as a kid working for him, and then until he realizes that, this kid saved him from, accidentally poisoning somebody. And then you see, like, the kindness that he showed to that guy turned around years later. It hits me in the feels.
That's what I've heard from anybody that has brought it up around me. See, I've never fully seen the movie. I've only seen very small snippets, so... I'm pretty sure I bought it on Amazon Prime within the past year with intent to watch it this year. I'm not going to let the hype get to me because, it's such an old movie at this point. Either I like it or I don't like it, but I'm genuinely curious to see... I knew who Donna Reed was because she used to have the Donna Reed show that used to be on Nick at Night when we were, much younger. So I'm familiar with her work, and... James Stewart, I'm a little familiar with, so I don't know. I'm genuinely curious to see how it hits me. A 41-year-old.
I just realized I left something off my list, but oh well.
All right, let us know. What is it?
I don't know what happened to it because I thought it was in there, but somehow A Christmas Story disappeared.
Okay.
Jesus Christ, how could I forget? Okay, so my number one is something that Kent never does, and it's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Story. There you go. I love both those
movies. So I'm one of those people that I don't hate A Christmas Story or anything like that. I just, it used to be on what, TBS or TNT? They used to do like the 24-hour marathon.
Yeah.
It's fine. I didn't watch it when I was a kid, though, so I don't have... I fully believe it's a nostalgic film. I don't know if it holds up well to brand new eyes nowadays. I'm not sure if it... Maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah. It definitely was something I loved watching as a kid. I don't know. Like, I see a lot of, like, situations... Not necessarily, like, my situations, but, like... I can see, like... the dad having to go through the dad shit, the mom having to go through the mom shit, the kids having to go through the kid stuff. Yeah, I don't...
Right.
So, yeah, like, those two are the classics for me.
Yeah. I actually thought that'd be brought up more in the post on Facebook today, so I was really surprised it wasn't. But I think a lot of people, like, once you got past, like, the first 3 or 4 people, they all tried to bring their own new title to it. So.
Yes, so I apologize, Kent. I did not mean to do a double number one, but yeah, thinking about it, yeah, they both probably are number one for, like, I could, on any given day, it would be, whichever one I just thought of first.
After all the times that I fucked up on this, I'm willing to let you go on this one.
Well, it's not really fucking up if, like, every single month you do it. Then it's just, like... then it's the norm.
Expected.
Yeah.
What I'm doing now is unexpected because I've actually stayed on course, surprisingly. And I don't have a surprise double feature for my number one. I just have a number one.
All right. I'm interested in hearing.
Well, we already talked about it.
Oh,
I didn't want to overhype it, but, Saw 0, or known as Home Alone. I've already said, we have talked about this film, like, even in our horror podcast, we have discussed Home Alone. Like, we have it's one...
How many months in a row did we talk about Home Alone in the blog? It was like 20 months in a row.
Dude, I feel it's probably one of the 10 most discussed between our podcast and the blogs that we did. Like, we've covered every angle of it, and I'm happy to because it's something I absolutely love talking about, but, it gets to a point where there's nothing left to say. Same with, well, look at all the movies that we've talked about. 28 Days Later, we talked about
a bunch,
so many times.
Mm-hmm.
and when we were doing just like best films, like those same movies kept coming up time and time again. So, it's just personal for me. I watch it almost every year.
The highest praise I can give it is something you said with Grumpy Old Men, but like I've seen it so many times, and still like every time like Harry and Marv go into one of those traps, I still laugh. Like probably one of the hardest times I have ever laughed in my entire life is when he throws the spider on Daniel Stern. And, like, that scream is so real. I imagine that they didn't tell him it was going to happen, and they just did it in the movie.
Like this high-pitched primal scream. Like, even something throwaway, like him going to the corner store and asking, like, if the toothbrush is approved by the American Dental Association, and keep the change, you filthy animal. Like, there's just so many... The polka band... I'll throw in a little video game knowledge. The video game for Home Alone sucked. We all know this. But there's a zombie game called Dead Island. Have you played it, right?
I have. I haven't played it in a long time, and I never beat it.
Okay. So, I mean, I've played it through probably close to 10 times. And there's a thing that you can do when you go into some houses. They have sinks, and you can turn the water on. I always turn it on as an homage to the Wet Bandits. And I even have a Wet Bandits shirt in my closet. Like, dude, I don't know. There's all these weird things in life that I still can go back and attribute to Home Alone. So, yeah, Wet Bandits for life. I wish Daniel Stern would go, like, get back in the limelight. Like, he was pretty funny, I thought.
Not only was he pretty funny, but he also was able to do some pretty creepy, serious stuff. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but like I remember him in he did a DOA with Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. I'm pretty sure he was in Very Bad Things. Maybe I was wrong about that one. Trying to go back because that was a while ago. No, yep, he was in Very Bad Things.
City Slickers, which I know is completely off the...
Yeah.
He was even the narrator for freaking The Wonder Years. I didn't know that. Why did I not know
I kind of remember that now. Oh, there was some... Shit. I was just seeing something about... Michael Keaton was a narrator for something that he was on... Inventing the Abbots. He was uncredited for, and I was like, I didn't realize that. So I guess we each had our own narrator moment tonight.
Yeah, good on us. And wow, I feel like we did good here.
Yeah. I guess we're gonna be coming back in a minute with just like our little brief random musings that we talk about in between each podcast, but this one probably is not going to be too long since we just did one a couple weeks ago. So either stick around or we'll see you later, guys.